Tariffs are like fire. Used correctly, they can forge steel, protect homes, and light the path for growth. Used recklessly, they burn industries to the ground, scorch consumers, and spiral into economic wildfires. Picture this. A country slaps heavy taxes on foreign cars, hoping to boost local factories. At first, jobs return. But soon, trading partners strike back. Prices rise, exports fall, and suddenly the fix feels more like a curse. Tariffs can either save an industry or sink an economy. The difference is all in how they're used. In this crash course, we're breaking down tariffs, what they are, how they work, and why they've been both hero and villain in the history of global trade. We'll look at the moments tariffs built nations, like the rise of American manufacturing and Japan's post-war miracle. We'll also dive into the disasters, like the infamous Smoot-Hawley tariff of the 1930s and modern trade wars that spiral out of control. By the end, you'll see the pattern. Tariffs can work, but only if used strategically, not politically. Tariffs have been around for thousands of years. Ancient kingdoms taxed foreign goods at their ports to fund armies and palaces. But in the modern era, tariffs became one of the most powerful and dangerous tools of economic policy. Take early America. In the 1800s, the young United States faced a problem. Britain dominated manufacturing. American factories were tiny in comparison. So the US government used tariffs to give domestic producers a fighting chance. Imagine a British steel bar rolling into New York Harbor. The tariff slapped a tax on it, making local steel cheaper by comparison. The result? American industry slowly grew teeth. Fast forward to post-World War II Japan. The country was devastated, bombed out cities, shattered infrastructure. Yet Japan rose to become an industrial powerhouse. Part of their strategy? Smart protectionism. Japan shielded infant industries like automobiles and electronics until they could compete globally. Think Toyota and Sony, companies that started behind the wall of tariffs before storming the world stage. But history also shows the dark side. In 1930, the United States passed the Smoot-Hawley tariff, raising duties on over 20,000 imported goods. The goal? Protect farmers and workers during the Great Depression. The result? Retaliation. Other countries struck back, global trade collapsed, and the Depression deepened. Instead of saving jobs, it killed them. So the lesson is clear. Tariffs aren't inherently good or bad. They're a tool. And like any tool, it matters how, when, and why you use it. Let's look at tariffs as a shield. Tariffs are often used to protect infant industries. Imagine you're running a tiny startup making solar panels. If cheap imports flood the market, your business dies before it ever grows. A tariff raises the cost of foreign panels, giving you space to innovate, scale, and eventually compete. The US used this playbook in the 19th century. Japan and South Korea did it in the 20th. Even China in the 21st. Done right, tariffs act like training wheels. They help you balance until you can ride solo. But here's the catch. If the training wheels never come off, you end up with bloated industries that can't stand without protection. Now let's look at tariffs as a weapon. Sometimes, tariffs aren't about nurturing industries. They're about punishment. Country A accuses Country B of dumping cheap steel to kill off its competitors. So Country A slaps tariffs to level the playing field. In theory, this pressures Country B to play fair. In practice, it often sparks retaliation. Tariffs lead to counter-tariffs, which lead to higher prices, disrupted supply chains, and a lose-lose scenario. It's like two kids fighting over a toy and breaking it in the process. Nobody wins. We at the Money Compendium would just like to take a moment to thank you for watching. We appreciate your support and commitment, and we hope you continue on to enjoy the rest of the video. Okay, so how do tariffs affect you, the consumer? Here's the part politicians rarely mention. Tariffs are essentially a hidden tax. When a tariff raises the price of imported shoes, the local producer can raise prices too. Suddenly, everyone's shoes cost more, even though wages haven't gone up. Consumers pay the price, often without realizing why. Of course, it's not just shoes. It's electronics, cars, food, and so on. Adding expense into nearly every aspect of your life. Multiply that across an economy, and tariffs can quietly erode purchasing power, even if they're saving certain jobs. But it comes to tariffs. Timing is everything. The real key to tariffs is knowing when to use them and when to step back. In times of national crisis or when building new industries, tariffs can be stabilizing. But if they drag on too long, they create inefficiency, corruption, and high costs. Think of tariffs like antibiotics. Used correctly, they fight off infection. Overused, they breed resistance and make the patient weaker in the long run. Let's bring this all together with a brief history lesson. In the 1970s, South Korea was a poor, war-torn nation. The government had a dream: transform into an advanced economy. They targeted industries like steel, shipbuilding, and electronics. To protect them, South Korea imposed tariffs and trade barriers. Domestic firms like Hyundai and Samsung were nurtured in this safe zone. But here's the important part. The government didn't protect them forever. As companies grew stronger, tariffs were reduced, forcing them to compete on the global stage. The result? South Korea went from one of the poorest countries in the world to one of the richest in just 2 generations. Tariffs were the launchpad, but competition was the rocket fuel. Compare that to countries where tariffs become permanent. Industries get lazy, corruption creeps in. Consumers pay high prices for low-quality goods. It's the difference between training wheels and a crutch. So what's the right way versus the wrong way to use tariffs? The right way, as a temporary shield, giving industries room to grow while planning for global competition. The wrong way, as a political weapon, a permanent crutch, or a knee-jerk reaction to crisis. Tariffs are powerful, but they're not magic. They can't fix deeper problems like low productivity, poor infrastructure, or lack of innovation. At best, they buy time. At worst, they waste it. Think of tariffs as shock absorbers, not engines. They can smooth the ride, but they can't drive the car. So now you know, tariffs are neither hero nor villain. They're a tool, and the real question is whether leaders use them with vision or with panic. But here's the bigger picture. If tariffs are fire, what happens when the entire global economy catches flame? In our next crash course, we'll dive into the history of trade wars, from naval blockades to modern economic battles, and how they've reshaped nations. Stick around, because that story might just change the way you see every headline about global trade today. This has been the Money Compendium. Thank you for spending some time with us, and please, don't forget to click that subscribe button, hit that like button, and join us in the next one.